Hola, señorita.
Hello, hello, hello.
What's going on?
Oh, living the dream every day.
Yeah?
Sorry, my kid's texting me. I don't have
Oh,
the I don't have
blowing
the
you
ring
up.
off.
Blowing you up. Ding, ding, ding.
Ding ding.
What do you
Yeah.
what have you been up to the last several weeks?
Um, I don't know. It's all a blur right now. It's just a blur. We've got a lot going on with HP Race Brands. We've got just a lot going on with work in general. We got new turbos coming out. We've got new injectors coming out. We've got all kinds of things happening. So
When
just
is
getting the
all
year
that new pro
started.
when is that all that new product coming out? Like second quarter?
Yeah, probably. That's probably
Gotcha.
what we're looking at. Things are still in testing, so I don't want to say
Gotcha.
too much, but um some promising results from some new products. So it's pretty exciting. But yeah, it's just one of those things, just
Any
mm,
oh no, I was just gonna ask any new teams or drivers to the stable this year that you're allowed to talk about?
uh so nobody that you would probably know. I'm kind of pushing to venture out to the European drift market more. But there's some things in the pipeline that I'm just not going to mention it yet because they're not sure things or anything. But I have a once sponsored racer. His name is Lewis, and he is an APHIS racer. So I'm waiting for some results. Waiting for some results. What's up with that?
Uh yeah. It's
You're
uh it's
technically you're
happening.
tech you're technically breaching the contract, but that's okay. I'm gonna let you slide.
Wasn't my fault. Wasn't my
I know.
fault, you
That's
know.
what they always say that. But
It's hard to
my car's not done. My car's not done. My car's not done.
it's hard to get things done when um certain companies or people um promise you things and go back on their word and things like that. Um you know,
Well,
uh, it's definitely going to be a topic of discussion in the coming months for sure. Um I promised everyone that uh you will hear the full story, why my car wasn't out last year. But um, for right now, I'm just waiting, concentrating on getting it done because we have a few races to make in March and April.
so is that the first time you think you'll get your car out is in March?
Yeah, I think so. I think we'll definitely test in March.
It's weird. It's like it doesn't feel like it's January 753rd right now. Like this month is never ending.
Yeah,
Hi,
yeah,
Alan. I see Alan Bradley
yeah.
popping in.
I was talking to a buddy of mine, and he was in the background. Alan was like, "When are you doing a new show?"
I think Alan's a fan. I think that
Oh yeah,
we can always rely on Alan to tune in for sure. Even if we have no one else, it's always going to be Alan.
Ricky. Nobody's scared of that baby motor you got.
Oh boy.
Definitely not. Um,
Oh man. What else is going on? You've been just what have you been working on?
oh man, just grinding away. Just um the martial arts studio has been really busy. Um the uh the marketing agency has been extremely busy.
Yeah.
We're
That's good
getting
to
new
know.
clients. Yeah, it's
Yeah, that's really good. We need to work on some stuff together. We need to collaborate because I've got people who want sponsorship decks. I just don't have time. You know what I
yeah,
mean? I just
yeah.
don't have time. And but I am thinking about starting something. I thought I would mention it here. It's not like a big revelation, but I'm thinking about doing somewhat of a master class on sponsorship. And I say master class loosely, but I've been in it for so long. I've got so much knowledge and information and tips, but you can't give it away for free. So I'm thinking about a small fee for a series of basically training series, I
Mhm.
guess, so to speak. So I'm thinking about working on that when I'm not working,
Well,
which is weekends and evenings.
Alex Stryler just did one a few weeks ago. Actually, I was a guest speaker on there, and
Yeah.
I was shocked because, like, I mentioned it to a lot of people. I posted it, and I didn't really recognize any racers that I knew.
Hmm.
win. So, like, a lot of people put that information out there, you know what I mean, for very little cost, but racers don't take advantage. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, it's like that. What is that old saying? Like if you're good at something, don't ever do it for free.
No, I agree.
So, it's one of those things, but it's something that I'm going to put a lot of time into. It's going to take me a while. It may be something that's ready for the season next year. People starting to gear up. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I'm just thinking about it, but I would probably love to. I'm sure that I would love to bring you in somehow
Yeah,
because
we should do it. Let's do it.
cool. Let's lock it in.
Yeah.
All right. Tell me about our guests tonight because I have not prepped for this at all. I have no idea who these people are. Sorry. So I'm like your wing woman tonight.
Like this.
Yep. If you need me, I'm here.
So we have two guests tonight. So our first guest is a big time bracket racer. He's a hired gun. And a wealth of knowledge in driving skills and things like that. And our second guest um, is a guy who owns a credit and finance company who actually is a sponsor of mine. And he's going to be talking about, uh, options to racers, credit options, financing options. So let's say, you want to buy a $60,000 motor, you know, he can get you the financing available so you don't have to pay $60,000 cash of your own money. You can finance that out. And so you're not, you know, using all your liquid cash to buy your stuff.
So, in other words, you better have some equity in your house.
I'm not exactly sure if you have to put up stuff for collateral.
Yeah.
Um, but I guess I'll let him talk more about that or whatever.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. That's interesting. That's
yeah.
definitely interesting.
So without further ado, let's bring on our first guest.
Yeah. Awesome.
Sugar Shane Carr, how are you, buddy?
Good. How you guys doing?
Pretty good, pretty good. What are you up
Yep.
to this evening? Besides
Oh.
talking to us.
Not a whole lot.
No?
I like the January 753rd comment there. It's
Man,
been a long
It
January.
really is like I'm like thinking, okay, surely it's like February any minute now. Like we have one more day. It just
Yeah.
feels so long.
So I guess let's get right into it. Shane, for those people that are watching the show that don't know you, like what got you into racing, where are you from? Give us a little bit of background on yourself.
Born and raised in Killen, Alabama, which is about 60 miles west of Huntsville. Like most, my family was into racing when I come into the world. Dad and a couple brothers were pretty heavy into it. And actually started out racing a Honda 110 three-wheeler at Baileyton Good Time Drag Strip in about 1983 or 84. I really can't remember the year.
That was before I was born.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah. I'm one of them. I'm one of those old guys now that I used to make fun of 20 years ago that that guy's old. Yeah. I'm that guy now.
How fast did it go?
Oh, I really have no idea what that thing went ET wise, but I did win a couple nights. I mean, it was stroke of luck. I was like 11 or 12 years old.
Oh, wow.
And like they had like real drag bikes there that I was racing against. There was only like 10 bikes or so.
Gotcha.
But I did win a couple nights, and it was, I don't know, it was funny.
That's
I was
awesome.
already hooked before that, but
that's awesome.
That made it
you
worse.
were out there wrenching as a kid and stuff with your dad.
Oh, I attempted to. I'm sure I was more pain in the ass than anything else.
The tool fetcher.
Yeah. The flashlight holder, professional flashlight holder.
Hey, that's where you start.
I love
it. Don't even breathe. Don't move it.
I know the feeling. And then, like, I'm sure this happened to you, but it used to happen to me all the time. My dad used to be like, go get me this tool. And I'm still learning the tools, so I get the wrong tool. He's like, I'll just get it myself.
Well,
my dad wasn't a hot rodder, but I worked for him when I was like in high school and stuff. do not recommend. Like, I would never have been able to do that with him. Like, if he was a hot rodder, it just wouldn't have worked because I would have gotten bonked on the head with a tool for sure.
Oh my
For
gosh.
sure. Mm-hmm.
What was your first like real race car?
The family 67 Camaro that we had years
What
ago.
was the setup on it?
Just a big block Chevy Power Glide. It was actually they did a 2x3 mild steel square tube frame on it, and this was back in the early 80s.
Gotcha.
That's kind of how it
Hey.
started.
How
Yeah.
fast did that one go? 10s,
Well,
9s?
it had, well, I mean, it was all 8th mile stuff around here. The
Oh, okay.
one motor would go 640s, the other would go 660s.
Oh, okay.
Nothing crazy.
Yeah. That's a pretty moving car for back in the day.
Yeah, it's just your basic heads up or 1090 hot rod car.
Right.
Back in the mid 80s, my brother Danny, that's kind of what he did for the most part.
Gotcha. So tell us about what you got going on now. So you're a hired driver right now?
I guess you could say a hired gun. I mean, I don't necessarily get paid by any means, but
You drive for, I guess, a team or an owner. Like, how does that all work?
just over the years, making good relationships with people, and of course, we all go through times where we struggle racing, driving, winning, and whatever, and somebody gets aggravated and say, "Hey, hop in my car and race it." And okay, so like a long time ago,
yeah.
the first couple times like somebody would do that, I got in a couple different rides, never sat in it, and I would end up winning that day.
Oh, that's great. That's
Of course,
awesome.
this was 25 years ago or so. It's kind of hard to do now. It's so cutthroat and so, I mean, there's luck involved, of course, but the skill level today is just off the charts in
Yeah.
every aspect.
Yeah. I would agree. It's crazy. Like, I love bracket racing. I'm definitely a heads up racer, but I came from the bracket racing world, and just the level of competition, even at like your local stuff, is so hard.
Yep.
You know, but like, I'm sure there's a lot of drivers out there that want to drive for somebody else or whatever. Like, what advice can you give them if they want to get picked up by a team owner or something like that? Like, because I'm sure you have to produce, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a stepping into the right situation. I mean, you got to present yourself well. You obviously got to have some results before somebody's really going to give you a chance.
I really think it's one of those things. It's who you know type situation, because let's face it, there's not like a database of people who are, up for selection for racing somebody else's car. So I think the biggest key would be to be at the track, be present, obviously, be a good driver.
The being at the track and presenting yourself, which is one thing that I severely struggle with. I always try to let my results on the track do the talking, and that doesn't necessarily work. It does and it doesn't.
Gotcha. So it's definitely like your network is your net worth, right?
Yeah. Yep.
I think that's in motorsports as a whole. I'm sure it's in other industries too, but for this industry, I mean, it's really about every job opportunity, everything that I've stumbled into in my career in motorsports has always been who I've known. I mean, there's some skill there. Thankfully, I have a little skill, but it's really who you know. So you gotta stay, and you never burn those bridges. You always keep those relationships good, as much as you can.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to burn any bridges, but unfortunately, it happens.
It does. It does.
So, what are the pros and cons about being a hired driver?
Some of the pros is a lot of people like to, I don't know if they are joking about it or jealous or whatever, but they say, "Oh yeah, you got it easy. You just fly in and put your helmet on and start racing. You don't have to do anything else." Some of the cons are not every car is going to be set up how you really like it. Maybe the button on the steering wheel isn't your button
Yeah.
of choice, and maybe the electronics on the car aren't what you prefer, but it's not like you can go and do all this, make all these changes. I mean, a button is one thing, but whatever electronics and tires and whatnot are on the car, that's a whole nother animal, and you got to just go and work with what you got.
Have you ever gotten in a car for somebody else and said, I'm not driving this car after you taking a pass down the track?
Yeah, I've gotten worse the older I've gotten.
More like, I'm not driving this.
Actually, just recently, somewhat did that. It just was not my cup of tea, and I just got out and said, I can't do this. I'm sorry.
Was it like
What? I want to know what car it was.
Nah.
I want to know. I want to know.
I'm not getting in. You wouldn't know him anyway. I mean, I'm just
somebody will know. Hey, we need to create some controversy, Lewis. We need some more eyeballs.
It had some just different things that are against my preference today, and there was too many of them, and I'd like, nope, this is overloaded, and I'm out.
Oh man.
Obviously, safety is probably a factor too, right?
Yeah, safety's definitely one for sure, especially after I finally tumbled one after almost 40 years of racing.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that. Your crash and how you made it. Obviously nobody likes to crash. It's always a bad experience, but you work side by side with Larice Insurance, right? So tell us about your crash, how that affected you, and how Larice helped in that situation.
Well, I mean, bracket racing, you're driving you have to drive the finish line. I mean, you don't have to, but if you're going to be a threat week in and week out, it's almost a must that you have to drive the finish line. Sometimes you have to get really aggressive, and sometimes that can bite you. And when I crashed, it was 100% driver error. I was, for whatever reason, I'd let it get about a tire width out of the groove. I elected that I did not want to get there first, so I hit the brakes. And when I hit the brakes, it was a right-hand turn into the wall, and the rest is history.
Wow. Was that a dragster or a door car?
Yeah, it's one of my favorite rides of all time, the orange 2020 American that I drove quite a bit in 23.
Wow. What motor setup did that car
not
have?
your car. Not your car.
No, it was owned by another guy that had been racing for in 2023. Well, last year we started out again doing the same thing, and I actually had the car with me because he had ordered a new trailer and he could only haul 2 at the time, and I had the little trailer that I could use. So I was at 42 and all that shook down, and thank God he had on-track coverage for that car. And I was actually in the middle of buying it or trying to buy it, and then the crash happened and all that went south, of course. But the car is currently being actually rebuilt by another chassis builder, and it's supposed to be out in the next couple months.
Oh wow, that's awesome. What are you building? What is he building now?
It's still the same car, but it had to be front half, and I think had to have some back half work, a new cage, new body. The motor and trans and stuff actually was okay.
Nice. So it's at American right now?
Actually, it's at Ezel.
Okay.
Johnny Ezel down in Louisiana.
Nice. What engine combo did that car have?
That had a Oakley SR20 632.
Oh wow.
Steel block.
Would it run like 420s?
No, it go in somewhat normal air. It would go 440s.
Okay.
And then in the summertime, it was a low mid 50 player most of the time.
That's riding.
So that's all motor setup.
Yeah, just a single carburetor. Yep.
Yeah.
Dang.
That's riding. I always feel like, because I had a dragster for a short period of time, and like mine was like a high 490, low 50 dragster, and just being in an open cockpit felt so much faster.
Oh, it's like what I tell people. Like going 100 on the water is flying versus going 100 in a car on the highway is nothing. But like Dylan, the youngest one, he's all running his mouth lately about, oh, I'll get in a car, go full 40s, no problem. I said, dude, you don't understand.
No.
It's a big difference going even in the mid sixes in a door car to hop in a full 40 dragster. It takes a few runs to get your mind sped up to how fast you're really going.
Yeah. Even when I was doing heads up racing with my old Nova, that car went 470s. I built my new Nova and immediately went like bottom fours.
Yeah.
And it was such a huge difference.
Yeah.
And I'm like, holy shit, like what a ride, you know?
Yeah.
It took me a little bit to get used to it.
Yeah, it's like 470s in a door car. That's rolling. 470 in a dragster. It's just no big deal.
We have a question here. Someone asked, how does that work? Do you not have to worry about the cost of a car being a hired gun?
No, I mean, I don't have to worry about any of the cost I've got enough experience of where I don't abuse the car, the motor, or anything like that. I mean, I take care of it and I can service and maintain anything on it. But basically, I just have to not abuse the car and try to turn on the wind lights. But I mean, if it was going to tear up, it's going to tear up with the owner driving it or me or whatever.
Right.
Long as, something crazy doesn't happen and it go to neutral and go 9,000 RPM or something like that. But if it's going to break, it's going to break in most cases.
Right.
So you've won lots of races, right before we went live, you were telling us, you were runner up at one of the million races, right? Won $100,000 and things like that. So how did you learn how to drive so well?
Actually, I started out in the mid 80s when I was about probably 13, 14. That's when bracket racing kind of started getting pretty good traction along with IHRA and NHRA. Well, I was watching the guys that were winning every week, which was Steve Cohen, the Richardson brothers, Eben and Scotty, David Rampy. Those guys were winning everywhere we went. So that's what I started doing, was watching those guys and like, hey, what do they do so much better than most everybody else does? And basically it's consistency from start to finish, like a routine and doing the same thing run after run after run.
And you really have to know the car that you're driving too. So do you get time in the car? Like you fly into these places, you get in the car, you race it, you may have some test passes. That's all you really get?
A lot of times at these big events, you get one time run and then it's time to go.
Oh my gosh.
But your normal dragster, they're all basically kind of set up the same. It's just different designs of the dash and the steering wheel. It may be higher or lower. The shifter in a different place. The seat may sit a little different, but I mean, sometimes I drive cars, I have to have a seat pad behind me to get me sitting like how I kind of want to sit. But for the most part, a dragster overall is a dragster, just a dragster.
I think your wife is giving you shit. She says you've been in 3 million finals.
Yeah, I need to be in 3 more.
So
that's asking a lot.
So you never won the big one yet?
No, I won the OG million in 2011.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool. Gotcha.
Yeah,
so was like $1 million?
Well, it's based on how many cars
I gotcha.
There's entered for that day. Like it's the pay scale changes. They all do them a little bit different, but normally it takes over 500 to pay $1 million. Other than in like 2020, I think there was 2 or maybe 3 guaranteed millions that year.
That's crazy money. Like that's just, to me, I'm like sitting here as the heads up kind of person. And I'm like, I can't believe that the bracket races are paying out this much money. Like, where have I been?
And then,
under a rock.
You got the rapid money, but I mean, as far as like the fan base versus like bracket racing, the heads up stuff it's it's like a craps table. The craps table is normally always full when you're gambling. That's
Right.
kind of like the heads up stuff. It's
Right.
always happening. But the million finals, they try to stage those to where like most of the track is there watching on Saturday night or Friday night, whatever day it may be.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, though, I mean, heck, there's normally nobody watching as far as in the bleachers.
Yeah, that's where my brain short circuits, because my whole purpose would be to put butts in the seats. That's crazy, but I think that's kind of what's cost some organizations like NMRA and MCA. The viewership's just not there. That's just kind of sad.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And the bracket racing thing, they do have what's the live streaming all the time, like Motor Mania, and there's two other ones that's kind of popping up lately that's doing a lot of live streaming. So like people at home can sit and watch the race, or you can even sneak it in when you're at work sometimes too.
Yeah. I love watching bracket racing on the weekends, because usually I'll have it in the background while I'm working or whatever, and it's usually going on all day. You know what I mean? So
that's some long days for sure. I mean, we normally start at 8, 9 o'clock in the morning, and some of these races have 400 and 500 entries and sometimes more. You're looking at 11, 12, 1 o'clock that night to finish.
So what is the typical entry fee for these bigger payout events?
The million races, like the standard entry fee is like $2,000 to enter for one entry. And then
gotcha.
If you happen to lose first round, you can re-enter for, normally it's 500, some are like 6, but depends on the structure of the race.
Interesting.
I do believe that to become like a better heads up racer, you should definitely go bracket racing. Because some of the best heads up racers were bracket racers before. Especially like if they're good on the tree.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
Absolutely. I mean, honestly, I think Dave Connolly and obviously Jed Coughlin started the tightening up of pro stock.
Yeah.
On the reaction time. Those guys
they're beasts.
Today, you would think hey, where's your delay box at? Because you got in Dallas Glen today, they're teens and 20s all day long letting go of a clutch.
Right.
And then
that's crazy.
And then Top Fuel has really gotten a lot better the last, I don't know, time frame wise, but the last 4 or 5 years, I credit probably Sean Langdon and Antron Brown for, hey, these guys are going 30s, 40s, and 50s in the Top Fueler. And you got, I mean, personally, in my opinion, Force has always struggled on the tree, but he was always able to outrun people.
Right.
Well,
he had horsepower.
Over the years, those 80s, 90s, and 100 lights. Well, now you got Langdon and Antron coming in there. They can get 400 or 500 TT on the reaction time.
Right.
They even Force, I don't know about now, but the last few years, he's had to tighten up and get better too.
Yeah.
And the same in the funny car ranks. Those guys have improved a lot too.
Yeah. So how do you improve your skills at the tree? If I was a racer trying to improve my skills on the tree, like what are some of the things you do?
Well, I mean, I started out with the first practice tree I can remember was, I assume Krondek built it, which was the old Krondek timing system back in the 80s. It was literally in a briefcase. And one of the times I can remember playing on it, we were at Atmore Dragway down in South Alabama, and it had rained. So there was, I don't know, 8 to 10 of us in a hotel room. And at the time, I was only 12, 13, 14 years old. And once I kind of like got the hang of it, like I was giving these older guys a run for the money on hitting the tree. And then when the Beyondos come out with the final round practice tree, 89, maybe 90, I was one of the first ones to buy one of their practice trees. And literally every day, all day, that's all I would do when I wasn't in school, was I was hitting that stupid practice tree.
It's not really awesome. Stupid now, is it?
No. But I was always, the tree has always been definitely my stronger suit from both ends of the racetrack by far. normally, you have your days where you struggle, and then sometimes you're just lights out. But most of the time, my strong point is definitely the reaction time. But it takes a lot of practice in figuring out what button feels good to you. Some people like a micro switch. Some people like a red mushroom button B&M switch. There's different all kind of switches you can use, but you got to get that feel first, and then you kind of got to get a window down. And once you get your window of, say, where you only move 5, 6, 7 thou, maybe 8, now you got to lay that thing down, and you got to come by and hit it one time every hour. And now you got to get that window to where it's got to be 10 or less, or you got to do more practice.
That's interesting. So that's a little strategy there.
Yeah.
Tip from OG.
Yeah, I love my Biondo 00 button. That's the only thing I use now.
Right. I actually prefer the B&M red mushroom button. It's just a better feel and the more consistent pressure every time when you press it.
I'm gonna have to try that one. I haven't tried it.
Yeah. But now if you're looking for a few thousandths or maybe 100th in reaction time, some of the micro switches are faster for sure.
Oh, okay.
But like pro tree racing over the years, back in the late 80s when I first started, early 90s, a 4/10 pro tree and a 2,800 pound car, good luck trying to hit that and have a good reaction time, because that thing just doesn't react.
Right.
I would test micro switches and whatnot, and there was some floating around that would be 100th to 100.5 faster than others.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. What about like driving the finish line? Any tips for that?
That's a tough area there. I have people all the time ask me, do you drive the wheel, or you drive the cage, or do you pick out something on the car, look at, or I kind of always been one to drive the front wheels, but I don't know. I think I see a lot of these guys today. I think they're actually driving the cage of the car, and they seem to be doing a lot better.
Gotcha.
And as much as the racing has tightened up, everybody's gotten insanely good.
Yeah. Like I said, the level of skill and the way the cars are being built nowadays, it's just everyone's so consistent. They're good on the tree. It's it's definitely a driver's game for sure.
Yeah. Personally, I'm not a fan of the LED bulbs because they don't change. Like with the old incandescent bulbs.
Yeah.
Man, you got 100 to 15 thou window from when it goes full sunny to dusk and then to dark.
Mm-hmm.
Like the LED stuff, as long as the actual tree itself is lit up so you can see the bulb, and the bulb is not in the dark.
Right.
You never change. You don't have to roll any delay in or out, or once you find your number, all you have to do is just let go.
So these are interesting things that I guess I hadn't really thought much about with the LED versus incandescent bulb. Like, that's a huge difference.
Oh, absolutely.
You have to that could make or break just a regular bracket racer who's maybe, struggles a little bit more and doesn't know the ins and outs. That's tough.
Right.
It's interesting. But I mean, I would assume that most tracks are now LED bulbs, right?
Yeah, I haven't been. I mean, you see them on the backside of the tree, but
yeah,
they're just on there for people watching down the track.
Makes
sense. I haven't raced on incandescent that I can remember in 20 years.
Wow. Do you have any sponsors?
Actually, no, I don't. I mean, I have a handful of companies that I strongly support, but as far as sponsors, I don't really. It's tough for me to get sponsors because I don't really have my own ride.
Gotcha.
That's true.
What companies do you support?
Obviously, Larice is one because you're wearing a shirt and a hat.
Yep.
Yeah?
Definitely Larice for all your insurance needs.
Definitely call Robin Ortiz Hughes.
Yeah, she's a good one for sure.
She's the best.
Or you could just call my wife.
Oh, my bad.
I didn't prep her beforehand.
Yeah, there's no prep here. I still would have said it though. Robin's my girl.
It's all good. No, she's good. I've
As
known
long as
her.
it's insured, right? As long as it's insured, that's what you need.
For the price of the insurance on a race car, I mean, to me, insurance on a race car is, I would never believe that, but it surely happens today. I can attest to that.
I mean, look at we had somebody have 2 cars burn up in 2 different trailers. What was that? Who was that? He's a no prep guy. Hothead. Can't think of his name. 2 cars burn up. I can't think of his name. Anyways, you know what I'm talking about? Like it was like back to back, 2 cars and two race trailers. I'm assuming there was some insurance.
That's some bad luck there.
Yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but some
Reaper.
Oh yeah, that's right, Reaper. Yeah. Some cars, you can get, depending on what it is, maybe like a bracket car or something, you can get on track insurance.
Yep.
Right.
Down to a certain ET. Now some classes they won't do on track, but the bracket racing stuff, we're not prone to crashing on a regular basis like
the heads up stuff like me.
No prep. Just say it.
Well, you guys are balls to the wall though. You're trying to it's never fast enough.
Right.
That is true. That is true.
Little itty bitty tire, making thousands and thousands of ponies. You know what I mean?
Correct. It is insane some of the horsepower these guys make today.
I can't believe. Have you been watching Sick Week at all? I don't know if you're into any of that, Shane.
Mm-hmm.
I catch a little bit of it.
620 at 235 from Brett LaSala? Like, this is a street car.
Yeah.
This is insane. It's just insane.
I didn't see that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of scary.
Very scary.
So yeah, call Larice up, call Carrie, or what was your
Robin.
friend's name?
Robin, but for the sake of this program, definitely call Carrie.
Yeah, definitely call Carrie.
Support our guest.
Yeah.
Jim and Robin Hughes, they're good people.
Oh yeah.
You can get a hold of me, and I'll put you in touch with Carrie. And I have my whole operation is insured by Larice as well. So
sounds expensive.
No,
it was not bad at all.
For the price that everything costs today and for what insurance costs per year, it's almost pennies on the dollar.
Yeah.
It's actually really nice though, because you got people like Jim Hughes who are very seasoned in this industry and in racing in general, have been in it their whole lives, that they're the ones that are doing the assessments on the race cars damage or whatever. So you kind of know you're going to get someone, you're not getting Joe Blow who works for Geico or something. You're getting somebody who knows what they're looking at. Right. Somebody asked, so what does the insurance cover other than the car?
I was hoping the wife would be watching so she could chime in on that.
Yeah, so I think she is watching.
I could speak on that.
Yeah, go
Basically, pretty much the trailer, the stuff inside the trailer, your tools, if and that's like the motor, the transmission, everything, like your whole operation gets insured, basically. So. And everybody's program is different. So you'll have to talk to one of the Larice agents about your particular program. But as far as my stuff, everything is insured. The trailer, the tools, the entire car, all that stuff.
Yeah, they insure it. Like the car has a value, the motor has a value, the transmission has a value. And, if you don't have on track, then it's covered. The only time it's not covered is when you pull into the burnout until you pull off of the track. Other than that, it's covered.
A lot can happen between the house and the racetrack.
Correct. Yes. Even pit incidents can be very damaging too.
Yep. That is true.
Well, thank you, Shane, for coming on and, telling us about your driving. Larice, do you want to give any shout outs to anybody?
Nope, not today. No shout outs. No, I'll give a shout out to you guys for having me on. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for coming on. This was great. And this was one of my goals for 2025 is not just having heads up stuff on the channel. I really want to get into bracket racing and no prep racing and just a diversity of different stuff. I and Alyssa, you and I talked about possibly even having some drifters on here in the future. And
Yeah, I'm starting to build up a lot of friendships with those guys. So there's just so much more to life or motorsports, not life, but than drag racing. And I think that I've got to get my mind out of that. Like, we're missing out on a lot of things if we only are into drag racing. So, but I think your wife she wants you to shout somebody out. I'm a wife, and I would appreciate if someone would make sure that I was heard.
Oh yeah, I just got the 3rd degree on some shout outs.
You better give them.
They're basically shout outs from some of my people that I've depend on for good parts.
There you go.
Oakley Racing Engines from Owensboro, Kentucky. Marco Abruzzi transmission and converter out of Ohio. Fuel Factory for all your racing fuels.
There you go.
My main man Trevor Wiggins over at Get 'em Carbs. Those good old sticky Mickey Thompson tires. I think that's about it. Maybe that'll get me out of hot water for a minute.
Yeah, there you go. You're good. I was picking up what she was putting down back there. So you're welcome. You're welcome.
Cool, man. Well, thank you so much again. And we'll talk soon.
One last shout out, American Race Cars for the dragsters.
Oh, there you go.
There you go. That's a big one.
And I got one more. If anybody's in the market for a trailer, please call the guys at Trailer Ranch out of South Carolina.
Trailer Ranch.
Yep.
All right.
I've been trying to get a hold of them. Tell them to call me. I need a trailer really bad.
Okay. I'll make that happen.
I've been trying to get a hold of Jimmy over there.
All right. I'll make that happen.
All
right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks. Nice talking to you.
You too. Thank you.
She wasn't happy that he was not mentioning those sponsors. So we had to make sure that we rescued him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That was good. That was, I even learned some things too. And I've been doing some bracket racing myself. So, that was an awesome interview.
Yeah. He seems like he really, I unfortunately, I don't particularly know him, but that doesn't, I don't know a lot of people, but I feel like, bracket racing is underappreciated.
It is for sure. You can bracket race, for a quarter of the cost, and have a competitive car than what it takes to do heads up racing.
So are those guys generally carbureted?
Yeah, usually they're carbureted.
Why?
Yeah. Less stuff to worry about going wrong.
You would just think that you would be able to dial it in even better and like finesse it better.
So no? Yeah, no, you're right. So in a sense, so this is my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
So less problems of electronics going wrong.
Right.
However, a lot of older guys who grew up racing in the carbureted time, not that carburetor's an old thing, it's
yes,
still
they
going
are.
on.
No, but they are. It's old technology. Let's call it what it is. It works, right?
Yeah, it works. But a lot of the guys are scared of switch to fuel injection because carburetors is what they know. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like for me, for example, me running a carbureted car, I can go to the track by myself.
True.
Running a
they don't have to bring a tuner with them.
Exactly.
Have a tuner on standby. Learn how
Exactly.
to tune. I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The fuel injected stuff, I need to bring a tuner with me or
Hmm.
have one remote.
On standby. Yeah.
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 So
We got to be, that's a constant back and forth for sure.
yeah.
Cool. Who's
So
our next guest?
Mr. Dave Burgio, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you guys? Can you hear me all right?
Yeah. We can hear you all right.
Awesome.
Our guests
How's
have
that?
been on point. They've been turning their cameras and stuff. You've been doing good, telling them what to do.
Not even tell them that.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not a rookie at
You're not a
this.
rookie? All right.
No,
Yeah.
no.
We started
I'm
off
not.
rough with a couple of them, but it's getting better. We're getting better. So nice to
Progress.
meet you, Dave.
Nice to meet you as well. Thank you both for having me. Greatly appreciated, and caught some of that conversation back there. And yeah, you talk about different racing, and I am not involved in it at all. So I am
Well,
a unique guest, so to speak.
but you used to be into cars and stuff like that because I've known you a very
Also, I
long
used to
time.
be. I still am.
It's a passion that never dies. I mean, really.
No.
Yeah. No.
No, it doesn't. And I was thinking about that before I came on here. It's like, man, how long do we go back? You know what I mean? I think I probably met you like 20 years ago.
Yeah, I would say so.
Oof,
Yeah.
man. There we go. We just aged ourselves.
We
Man.
we met when our big party days were ahead of ourselves.
Yeah. And we used to
Oh
hang out
boy.
at the car wash
Yep.
like midnight, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. And
Yep. Street
yeah, that
cruising,
was, yeah,
street
cruising.
racing.
Boy, there
Cruising.
you go. There you go.
Making the loop, whatever loop that was, everybody was making a loop, you know?
Yeah, the international dragway of US Route 22. Did I say that too loud? Oops. Censor that one out.
Thank God there was no social media back then.
Oh man.
Oh, dude.
Oh yeah.
Or cell phones. Well, cell phones are starting to come up, but smartphones really
I had a
didn't,
pager. I was telling
yes.
my girls, I have 2 girls, I was telling them about having a pager, and they're just like
Mm.
perplexed. They're like, wait a second. Like somebody would page you for you to call them back, but like on a payphone. Like, what is
Yeah.
that? Like, oh
Yeah.
man.
So you put
Ugh.
quarters in and you
I'm
dial them. Like those
Yeah,
things
and I'm like,
exist.
I'll never forget. I snuck out of the house one time because I'm trying to tell them, like, no matter what you do, I've already done it. So you're never going to be able to get anything past me. I used to roll my Mustang out the freaking driveway. I would roll that thing as far as my foot could push it from the passenger or from the driver's seat. I'd start it up, and I'll never forget the page that I got at like 3 a.m. from my dad from the house phone number. I was like, oh man,
Oh man.
it's over.
So I actually own a snow cone stand, right? And
Well, that's interesting.
there's a payphone.
I didn't know that.
There's a payphone right next to it.
Please get a picture of that.
I do have one. I'll send it to you.
Oh yes. Thank you so much.
It's me on the payphone, like pretending to take a call.
Next time you
Oh,
call me,
get
it better be from that payphone.
I don't know if it works. I haven't tried it.
It's like a relic. It's a freaking relic.
Find a dial tone. What's a dial tone?
Oh my gosh, I have not even thought about that. We have not heard a dial tone in decades.
Mhm.
I still
Wow.
remember the Boost Mobile walkie-talkies. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Good old Nextel. It's awesome. When I met
So-
you, man, when I met you, like real quick, did I still have my notchback or did I have my Integra?
I think you still had your notchback.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So you went from a notchback, like a 5-liter to an Integra? Is that what happened?
Yeah. Don't ask. Don't tell.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Don't
Man,
ask.
the import scene was huge back then.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that
It's freaking
Integra
huge
was
now.
well, that Integra was really fun. Like when I got it, because it was like something that nobody had. It was a supercharged 4-door GSR, and nobody had that. And it had Type R suspension from the factory. So, and I
Yeah.
got it and I got it really reasonable. And I said, you know what? I'm just gonna be different. Let me just get this thing.
I like different. Different's good.
Yeah, it was really good. So
What was
anywho.
your first
Like hot
Like-
rod.
hot rod? Was it the notchback?
Yeah, it was the notchback. So growing up, I grew up on motorcycles and quads. It was always my thing. Always had a passion for cars. My dad was a young dad. You know, he was 21 when I was born, so he was always a motorcycle and car guy. He was a Chevy guy, and in his business, when he really started coming through, he started getting into Corvettes right around you know, I was 14, 15, like when he first got his one. He was like in his early to mid 30s. And I was like, oh yeah, Corvettes. But I always grew up loving Fox body Mustangs, you know, the good old vanilla ice line, right? Rolling in my 5.0. So that was my thing. Like I was a Ford guy, he was a Chevy guy. And then by the time I turned 16, that's all I wanted to do was get one. And smart for him, he's like, no, dude, you're gonna kill yourself. Don't do it. So my first two cars were good old box Chevys. I drove two different Chevy Caprices. And
I
yeah,
like
dude,
that.
they weren't fast. They had 305s in them,
They're
but
so
they
cool
were
though. They're so cool.
well,
I think that's
yeah.
the dirty South in me that loves those freaking ghetto box Chevys.
Well, yeah, so you don't see them in Pennsylvania too often, right?
True,
So
yeah. You guys are northerners.
yeah, it was powder blue, it had the shiny chrome Caprice hubcap, so everybody thought I was an undercover, and I used to love that go. And then you would hear this bass because it was loaded with JLW 6s. I just used to love rolling on people with it. But after that was when I got that notchback, and after that was when I had the Integra, and you know, business and life kind of happened, so those hobbies took a back seat for a little bit, and you know, I'm getting that itch again. If you want to,
Some of us never grow up. We never grow up.
I wish I didn't grow up, man. You know,
Dude, I just need to let you drive my Fox body.
buddy, man, that could be a gift and a curse. It's so bad, right? Like my dad and I went like kind of like motorcycle browsing one day, like 2 years ago, and my daughter was like really, really young at the time, and we took my son with me. And then there's points in time besides that, or even before that, when my son was a baby 8 years ago, my wife would go with my dad and I, and she does not like, not into that stuff at all, but she would go because, and I'm like, well, why are you coming if you don't like it? She's like, I don't want you doing something like I want you to, I don't want you coming home with anything and killing yourself. I'm like, okay. Because she knows like I'd probably still act like I'm 21, 22 again, you know,
Right.
balls to the wall, and that's it. And she's probably not wrong, man. You know, it is like
She's not
riding
wrong.
no, so, you know, I give her credit for that. She's just looking out for my best interest, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. So, you own Trifecta Credit Solutions, right?
Yes, sir. Mhm.
And I guess and thank you. You were a big supporter of mine beginning last year, still a big supporter of my
Thank you.
program. So thank you very much.
Yes.
But I guess explain what Trifecta does and how it can help racers and their race programs.
Yeah, so Trifecta, you know, on both sides of the aisle, on personal and business, you know, we help people. Number one, we educate, but also equally important, we help repair, rebuild, and restore personal and business credit profiles. But more importantly, not only repair, rebuild, and restore those negative things, we help build positive profiles as well. Goes kind of in both hands. Well, why? You know, 10 years ago, kind of as a side hustle, you know, it started off as to helping people get approved for homes. And then once we created the brand 5 years ago, yeah, we're still big into the mortgage sector of things, helping people, you know, buy homes, buy their first home, refinance and stuff. But one of the things that put us in a unique position as well was during when this brand came up 5 years ago and the shift in the world during COVID, you know, businesses were looking to adjust and make different positions with either getting shut down, with losing revenue, with needing to scale, with needing to stay afloat. And that's when we realized like the power of business credit. And they also kind of work hand in hand, personal and business credit. So we started getting versed, creating relationships in order to help businesses get ahead as well, and helping them get in different positions and get capital or anything they need to thrive, to move forward, to even start up or to scale or to just make payroll. So yeah, man, you go from cars to credit, I guess. I don't know. It's one of those weird things, you know?
Well, I know one of the things I spoke to you about, like in the past, like, you know, let's say I'm a racer, right?
Mhm.
And, I need to buy a $40,000 long block. You know what I mean? That's basically what, my motor costs, 40, 50 grand, right? Can you help me with that? So I wouldn't have to pay out all that in cash.
Yeah, right. And like I'm sure like sponsorships like either help or don't help if you have a lack of funds. And one of the things you and I talked about is I believe most of you guys are all business entities, right? Like this is just part of your business, so to speak, if you're a performance shop or some type of tech. Yeah, the answer is yes. I mean, look, the beauty about the business side of things too, it's if you're pulling in revenue, you have a business, you have documentation for whatever you're looking for, sure. Absolutely. And I say that kind of like sure, because there's different options. There's a lot of different options you can do, right? Like it doesn't have to be just like some type of working capital to buy that engine, so to speak. There's ways that we could teach it. Hey, if you know you're going to get some type of return, or if you're a badass racer and you're winning money every week, right? Like you're basically bringing in revenue, so to speak.
Mhm.
We could look for other ways. Like there's savvy ways that hey, something short term, teach somebody how to stack business credit cards, fill out the paperwork right to where, okay, well, if you might get a business credit card for 20K, well, let's fill it out right. Let's get it documented right. And that 25K could be a couple of them stacked to 100,000 or 150,000. Not saying you need that, but in credit card side of things, you always want to have a buffer. And the beauty of something like that is you'll have 0% grace period, right, for a year. So there's a strategic, you got to figure out the math, like if it makes sense. I'm not saying sit here and do that because that might not like work for everybody.
Right.
It's all in the math and how you get a return on something. It could be something else like, maybe a line of credit for something that you do like within your business. But hey, I need this instead. So I have this here. I could tap it for an engine, or I'm using it here on this side within my four walls, right? Could be something like that. Could be part of equipment, right? Like if you're a racing team, equipment's really unique because it's a gray area. Like what's a piece of equipment? A freaking a ream of paper could be a piece of
Right.
equipment,
So
right?
could a twin turbo setup be a piece of equipment?
Yeah.
Sure.
So,
it's
is this technically better for people who are bringing in income from their racing, or would this be a good fit for somebody that really is truly this is not a profit situation and that they just want to go out, if they win some money, that's great, but they can't really float a 60 grand, $60,000 engine, like what would that be a good fit for like the average guy like that?
well, it's the best piece of advice I ever got. Anything is lendable as long as you have the documentation to prove otherwise. Like it's
Right.
not like you're just going to come in and be like, hey, I need 60 grand. Well, the most important question is, okay, well, how are you going to pay that back? Right? Like
Right.
what documentation do you have that you can prove it back? Well, okay, I race, but my business that has nothing to do with racing brings in X amount of revenue, or I have a job to where I make this amount of much a year. I mean, I guess the answer is, I mean, if you really want to go that route, I mean, you're taking that risk yourself. As long as like you have the income and the documentation to back it up, like you could pretty much loan any. Do I suggest doing that? Probably not.
So,
You know what I'm saying?
well, for me, like a racer like me, even though like I do get a lot of sponsorships and things like that, I still pay for a lot of it myself, right?
Yep.
But even though I'm a business owner, I don't have like tons of liquid cash sitting in the bank. I gotta make payroll. I gotta pay bills. Like I pay more bills in a month than a lot of people make in a year, right?
Yeah.
So I constantly need that cash to pay my bills, right?
Mhm.
So for me, something like this would benefit me because I don't have to take all my money that I'm using every month for my business, and I could, finance something I really need. Let's say a trailer, right? I need a trailer, you
Piece of
know,
equipment.
right? Yeah, piece of equipment.
Mhm.
Which I'll probably need to talk to you about. Because I do need a trailer. But
By the
um
way, I'm glad you made it back safely with that trailer in the snowstorm in the south.
yeah, that's a crazy story. So yeah, so I went down to Florida to pick up a vehicle for my buddies Reese and Jared Brunner, and man, I the first thing that happened was I couldn't get the jack to move on the trailer. It was frozen because the weather's been in the single digits, right? After working on it for like an hour and heating it up with a heat gun, it finally broke loose, right? Then I get into a freaking accident. Uh, 2
Oh,
hours
did you
later.
really?
Yeah, I got into an accident. Yeah.
Oh boy.
My trailer hit another car, right? Totally my fault. Totally my fault. I was not paying attention, right? Right. And I was not paying attention. It was late at night, right? But my trailer was fine. The guy's car, not so much, right?
Oh boy.
Then when I get to Florida, I get a flat tire. So
Excuse me.
so everything happens in threes. So that was my third. So after I got the flat tire, I knew I was done. So my stress was gone.
Oh, you just knew that because it was the third incident.
Yeah.
See, that I don't have that kind of arrogance. I'd be scared that something else was going to happen.
No, it's
What?
everything happens in threes.
I hope that was all after I talked to you because first of all, I didn't even know you were down there. And second of all, when you told me how much snow was there, I was talking to you. I'm like, oh man.
Yeah, it was
savage.
after I talked to you. Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Good Lord.
So basically that works better for me that I can make a monthly payment,
Yeah.
rather than
Like,
throwing that cash down.
yeah, like I'll give you an example. Like there's a lot of times where people that I speak to, like take somebody in landscaping, right? Or in lawn mowing service. Sometimes they'll keep their guys on. They don't want to lay them off. And they'll look for some way to make payroll, whether that's holding some type of line of credit or some type of working capital loan just to get through the winter. Because a lot of those guys up here, they'll do snow removal too. But as cold as it's been in the Northeast, we really haven't had that much snow up here either. So again, it's just okay. How do we get by through the winter? And sometimes they'll float themselves for that. They don't have any revenue coming in,
Right.
So like there's obviously how are they able to do that? Well, what do they do the rest of the year? What have they done the past couple of years? What do their bank statements look like? And so forth. Again, it's all in the docs. Like, what are they looking for? What's an underwriter looking for that stuff? And as long as, okay, well, hey, you have the revenue or the history to back that up, you have the statements, a profit and loss statement, then sure, yeah, let's do it, because they're not, it's just one of those things where sometimes it's like, okay, I'm looking for it for this, but am I going to use it for this, or am I going to use it for that?
Right. Alyssa had a good question earlier in the show. And I said, I'm sure he'll answer this, but do you have to like put up collateral, or does it depend on the person and what they got going on?
Not really. Most of this stuff it's just based on data. The only time you'd really need collateral for something is if you do something through the SBA. So a lot of times if you're doing something through the Small Business Administration, it doesn't matter like what institution you go through. Like the SBA is the SBA. And one thing about the SBA, it's really only like 10% of people that apply get funded anyway. You remember back in the day when I had my restaurant, that we funded that with an SBA, and it was a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
Like it's actually harder to get that with collateral. We had to do a 4-year business plan projection. We had to show this, we had to show that. And this is going back like, 12 years ago. And there was a lot of work to get that. It took like 6 months just to get that loan. So again, could you put up a piece of collateral? I mean, it depends. Like, how bad do you want it? But a lot of times, if you're producing the worst thing, or I don't even want to say it's the worst thing, but the least thing you could do, it's on a bare bones thing, is probably take a personal loan. But would you want to do that either? Probably not. You're tying it to your personal credit report then,
Right.
from a risk assessment standpoint, but I mean, what's the trade-off with collateral? Like you wreck a car, or if you don't pay it back or something, you want to give up something for that. I mean, it's not a bad thing, but like, you don't have to do it, is
Right.
what I'm saying.
Are there any other products or services you offer to business owners and racers?
Yeah, just in general. I mean, credit consult. One good thing about us is always the first question. It's where does your personal credit stand? So one of the things that we like to do, or we're working on, it's like, how do we bundle a bunch of stuff? But I think the consulting, just in general, is getting people in line. Most people that either have a business mindset or some type of acuity with finance, right? Like, just in that sense, like if you guys are racing, it's like, it's almost like a business, whether or not it's your full-time business or not. You got sponsors, you need money coming in, you need this or that. So like you have checks and balances in place.
Mhm.
So a lot of times with that, like if we're consulting on something, it's like, hey, you got to just do a little bit over here in order to get the result. It's not like somebody coming in being a first-time homeowner and they just need their handheld 100% of the way. And it's like, hey, I need to get over this finish line. I have this debt that's gone bad. I have this medical bill. I have this charge off. I've had this repo, right? Like all this crazy stuff, to where like on the business owner side, it's like, look, man, we need a couple tweaks over here, pay this down, get it set up over here, and then we can help you over here. And sometimes that's not the case either. But overall, we help them, get in line on their personal side, collect a bunch of data, give them some pointers. The most important thing, and like, here's a tip that I'll just say out here for anybody: if you're spending a lot of money or investing a lot of money on personal credit cards, you're doing it for a business entity or business side of things, just stop doing that. Get yourself some business credit cards that don't report to your personal credit report. You can reach out to me. I'll gladly give you some pointers on that and the right stuff to look for, and get that off of your personal credit report side as soon as possible. Get everything on that business credit card side. The reason being is, and it happens a lot, and it still does to this day, business owners, or a lot of them, just assume they either can't get approved right away, or they think they can't get approved. So they start just using personal credit all the time. They rack it up, pay it off in full, rack it up, pay it off in full. But what they don't understand is when they're leaving those balances show, you're pushing your utilization up, driving your score down. And now you're kind of on the edge of being lendable. And, there's myths to that. So just get yourself some business credit cards right away. Dude, you can be a brand new startup and not have any revenue. And as long as your personal credit is good in line, as long as you had that thing age for a couple months, your business entity for a good 90 days, sure, get business credit cards. These companies love startups. As long as your credit's good, you still have some income. And if they need something like documentation, like a tax return or something, just to get a startup, then do it. That's the first step always that I will tell business owners. It's pretty straightforward, man. There's no secret sauce. I mean, a lot of stuff that doesn't have to do with businesses, like, will help people like either consolidate debt in some manner, get them a consolidation loan. What else? If it gets really bad to where the legal problems happen, we'll guide them in the right direction, at least like who to talk to with that. It's just pretty straightforward. I'm sure I'm missing stuff, man, because we're just so used to it, doing it all the time, that it's just just take it.
Yeah, it looks like, I'm on your website. It looks like you guys do a lot. You can help people with like tax debt too. Looks like you can do like debt consolidation, things like that.
Yeah, we could do a loan. Like, you got to be careful with debt consolidation. Like, don't call it like debt negotiation. While debt settlement, I don't like debt consolidation has this stigma to where it sounds good on the surface, but a lot of these companies kind of prey on people. Like, if you have a bunch of like outstanding debt, but your credit's still good, like you're not late on payments, you're just overextended. These
Mhm.
companies will come in and they'll be like, hey man, stop paying on your stuff right away. Let it default
Mm.
and we'll try to negotiate on your half. Well, you're doing a couple things. Number one, the moment you start making late payments and let it default, you're just going to crash your score even worse. For something
Wow.
that for something that a lot of people can handle themselves, right? So now you just crash your credit score. Like, it took 4 months, then it's all going to get charged off. And then what they're going to do is they're going to negotiate with the creditors on your behalf. And then they usually add 25% on top. So they're trying to get you a 50% discount, add 25% on their fees. But it usually takes anywhere from 2 to 5 years to get out of debt. And none of that stuff is going to report. Those debts are gone until all that stuff is settled.
Right.
And
Mm.
it's terrible advice. Do we offer that in a sense? Yeah, but we're not going to give it to anybody unless they're already in the tank. Like, if you're in the
Mm.
tank, and that's the thing, like a business owner, right? If somebody's already in the tank, there's a statute of limitations in every state to where they can legally collect on debt. But what I say for a business owner sometimes is, you might have to get rid of that in some sense. Sure, it might be updated, like, and settled or anything. But the problem is sometimes where the conversation is different. It's, if you want to become lendable right away, if you have a bunch of outstanding debts, underwriting's going to look at that sometimes be like, hey, why do you have this debt that you owe over here? Why do you have this one that you owe over here? Like, what's going on with that? So it's tricky. Everybody's different, when you look at data like that. So, you know, you bring up a good point with debt consolidation. I always like try to like make that clear, because some people are like, just settle out, negotiate my debts. Be like, well, there's a right way to do it and a predatory way to do it the wrong way.
Yeah, that sounds crazy. I've never heard of that. Like, just stop paying.
Mhm.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. Stop paying, let it charge off. We'll settle it for you. I mean, look, if you get in that situation, like, call your creditors yourself,
That's what I
and
was gonna say. Can't you call them yourself and say, "Look, I can't do this," or "I need more time for this," or something,
Mhm.
like, instead of just doing that to your credit score?
Yeah, the worst thing that can happen out of that, if you can negotiate it, sometimes depending on the company, they're getting a little nuts, they're getting a little crazy, they don't want to hear it, and they're not willing to settle. Like, we've had that happen to where people had to let it go. And look, sometimes you can, there's still ways to navigate it, even if you let go of a debt like that. But a lot of times, depending on for how much and how long, they'll do a couple things. They can either shut down the account, you got to pay so much, and then we'll restart it. Or if it's really bad, it's like, okay, you can pay it off, we'll settle out, and we just close the account, and life goes on, and you move on. But at least you're not wrecking your stuff, and that's the other thing. Even if you do something detrimental, it's not a death sentence. A lot of people think, oh my God, my credit's so banged up, I'll never be able to buy anything again. Like, that's not true either. So
Yeah.
I feel like the
there's
credit scoring system is a freaking racket.
it is. I will be the first person to tell you that. And everybody's like, hey, why do you do what you do? And I'm here to I look at it as to shake up things a little bit. Like, I don't want to be like some internet guru and be like, hey man, come here, get your credit fixed and have an 800 score in 30 days. That's not possible. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
It's not a
like,
gimmick. It's not a gimmick.
no, but there's people that market that, and it's
Yeah.
terrible. And it's our society that wants the quick fix fast all the time. And
Yeah.
it didn't take you 30 days to get in that situation. So
Right.
what makes you think it's going to take you 30 days to get out of that situation?
Right.
You
That's
know?
true.
Yeah. So
So
like,
what are your thoughts on Donald Trump putting a 10% cap on all the credit card interest rates, I guess, for a period of time?
well, we'll see if it happens.
Hmm.
I've brought it up a couple times, just to kind of make people aware. I mean, we don't know if it's going to happen yet. I
Right.
think I think it would be great on the surface. It would be for a short amount of time. It would be for 6 months. But again, like, what are the banks going to do? You know what I mean? That's the big question. Like, they could drop limits. I actually had that happen to me recently. I got in a discrepancy with a bank that I was with for a long time, and I kind of liquidated out of it, went a little more local, and they didn't like that, and they shot limits down on 2 of my cards, and I was like, oh, okay, we're playing a little dirty over here. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like it's crazy. So like they have language in their terms and conditions to where what is that long-term effect going to have? It's probably going to make
Yeah.
borrowing power tighter. And the thing about credit cards is they're the foundation of everything in credit. It's 30 having revolving trade lines is 30% of your credit score. So if you have no credit, you're leaving 165 points on the table, right? So now, and if you're maxed out, you're probably losing almost 165 points. So now if something like Trump's I don't know what you want to call it, just little addendum, I guess. But if he puts that in, then what are the credit card like? What are these banks going to do? Are they going to freeze people that are at a certain point that owe a lot of money? Are they going to start shaving down limits? Because that could actually hurt somebody's score even more.
Right.
Because if you're at 20% utilization, and all of a sudden, like that 20%, like that could be $40,000 for somebody, right? That could
Yeah,
be
that makes
$4,000
sense.
for somebody.
I think
So
it's
like,
I think it's predatory on both sides, like that
Yeah.
side and the side that they basically, like you said, are going to throttle back your ability to borrow or your ability to have a credit line of a such and such amount because they are the monopoly. They are monopolized and they are predators. Like really, truly, these big banks are.
Well, they don't lose, right? They're not in
Right.
the business. They're not in the business to lose money, and
Right.
they're that's their business. They're quote unquote like kind of house of cards. Like if you really get into the banking system, it is a house of cards. The credit system really is predatory. I mean, look, you look at it from one perspective, right? Like on the credit card side, yeah, interest rates are out of control. Like it's crazy to have a 30% interest rate on a credit card, but you shouldn't be holding balances either. Like just plain and
That's
simple.
true. Yeah.
You really shouldn't. But I understand why credit card interest is high. It shouldn't be that high. Like right, wrong, indifferent markets, all this stuff. It shouldn't be that high. But the reason it is, you have to remember that it is a quote unquote revolving trade line. And what does that mean? A lot of people just think, oh, revolving is variable interest. It's no, revolving means you have the ability one time you have the ability to basically give yourself a loan over and over and over again after you went through an underwriting process one time, as long as that card and bank still exists, your limit is still available or whatever you have available left, and you're in good standing. You make that payment all the time. So it's unsecured. There's nothing secured behind it. There's no collateral. There's nothing else. So that's why it's weighed heavily. It's a big risk for the banks, and they figure, well, hey, if you're going to hold balances every single month, then we're going to charge the interest for it. We're not getting something in return. There's no house on the line. There's no car to repossess.
Right.
So like that's kind of
High
like the thought
risk.
process behind it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
High risk.
100%.
Mhm.
100%. But it's a problem. Like the third quarter statistics, I don't even think the fourth quarter was released yet. I still can't find it, but third quarter statistics, there's almost $1.2 trillion of credit card debt. It's insane. It's a house
Wow.
of cards. It's gonna collapse. Like you got to do something about it. You just can't let it continue.
Right.
Right. There's so many factors that have contributed to that, though. I
Mhm.
mean, I can
Yeah.
see why some people would really be struggling and just kind of living off their credit cards. Not saying that it's okay, not saying it's good. But maybe a
Well,
temporary cap will help relieve some pressure.
hopefully,
Yeah.
we'll see. I mean, too soon to tell, but like there's always a gray area that can be exploited for some
Oh, for
reason.
sure.
Right.
For sure.
Right.
So if somebody wants to buy a high dollar engine, they should call you. They need a line of credit.
Well, if they want to help, yeah, because number one, like sure, we'll figure it out. Like we'll see, we'll do what we have to do to get there. Number two, like I love motorsports, you know, so like I can relate to that.
Nice.
You know what I mean? So it's like, oh, okay, well, you need something like, all right, you need some cams, you need some heads, right? Or you need a fuel system. Okay, well, you know, let's talk about it. Let's figure it out. You know, like how do we get you there across the finish line?
How do people get a hold of you if they want to talk to you?
Yeah, look, I mean, probably the easiest way right now, you can go to our website, it's schedule some www.trifectacreditsolutions.com. You can book a call in there, or you can come see me directly. Same thing, social media sites for the company. But if you want me directly, Dave Burgio, Burgio on Facebook, at Dave Burgio on Instagram. Those are the two most active places I am. Dave Burgio on LinkedIn, believe it or not. I don't know how I got started in LinkedIn, but that's what it is. But you know, pretty accessible. Reach out to Lewis. He can get a hold of me real quick
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
whether he's
for sure.
driving in 6 inches of snow on the south, he'll still answer. So you know.
Exactly. I'm always on the phone.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, man, that was pretty informative. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank
Do
you
you
for having me.
do you want to give any shout outs before we sign off?
Yeah, shout out to you guys, man. Like, thank you for having me. I know this is I'm probably not one of your typical guests, you know, so I greatly appreciate that.
No, I think this was definitely needed. You know, because I don't think being a racer myself, I talk to a lot of racers every day,
Mhm.
and I hear the struggles, the financial struggles with trying to be competitive or getting the next part, but they don't know that guys like you who are into motorsports exist to help them in these types of situations.
Yeah, and the conversation I had with you, like I said to that, like, you know, burning that fuel, right? Like to where it's like, man, it's like you get away from it from so long, but like that burning desire to like be a part of it in some way. And it's like I always said, like, you know, maybe that like for me, it's like to help the motorsports industry like get back into that, like, you know, take the credit financial side of things and put that in there. And it's like, you know, it's like, oh, I started thinking about that a lot when you and I were talking about that over the last year. It's like, yeah, man, make a difference in like something that I love, you know, no Integras though. Those are retired. But yeah, man. But yeah, man, 100%.
We just need to get you another Fox body.
Yeah, man, please. I'm down with that. Down with that. Or a good old, you know, LS7. I'll take a C6. That's fine.
Nice.
So is
nice.
this your business? Is this your company?
Yeah, this is my company. I have two other partners. I'll shout out my partners, Brad Modrich and Rena Cardozo. Shout out to team Rachel, Connie, Ashley, Sam, Rob. Yeah, I'm sure I'm missing a bunch off the top of my head. You know, too many shots to the head over the years.
Cool. Well, again, thank you everybody for tuning in. We'll be back in a couple weeks, and yeah. Any last words, Alyssa?
I don't have anything.
No?
I'm hungry. I'm hungry.
Nothing about Trump?
Hangry. Nothing about Trump. Oh, can we just talk about the fact that the last week and a half has been the best week ever? Right? Am I right? Epic. Sorry if you're not a Trump fan.
I'll be sorry.
I always like poking Alyssa because she's just like Trump.
I should have brought my socks. I have socks that actually have like Trump hair sticking out of them, like a whole like hairdo. It's great. It's great. I got the earrings, the socks, everything. Yeah, I'm a Trump fan through and through. No apologies.
All right, guys.
Sure.
Well,
hey, he is doing work.
He's doing what he said. He's doing what he said he was going to do. So love him or hate him, right? Like, do what you say you're going to do. And seems like he's shipping those criminals right out of this country. And I love every minute of it.
That's one of our core values in our company is doing what you say you're going to do 100% of the time.
That's it. And he's making no apologies. You know, he doesn't have to worry about a third term. So he's just doing it.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
You know, so, but hopefully the country will come together. People will unite, and we'll all be better for it because America is amazing. So
America is great.
Yep.
Hallelujah.
Yeah.
All right. See you guys.
Be great, guys. Thank
Bye.
you.